1 Chronicles 1 and 2. Genealogies are important in many societies, especially those that are built on family relationships, and of course that's the Bible. Chronicles begins with this long genealogy moving us through the time of David, or up to the time of David in chapter 3. It's interesting going back to the story, in fact, of David and Goliath. When David comes off the battlefield, Saul doesn't say, "Who are you?" He says, "Whose son are you?" Showing again that pedigree issue. What is your line of ancestry? That's even more important than who you are. So in many ways in the ancient world, a person's story really was being told by their parents and grandparents, where they would live, the profession they would have, who they would have as a spouse, those kinds of things. So when it came time to ask the question, "Who am I?" or "What can I do?" No one took their children in their hands, and said, "You can be whatever you want to be." No, "I am giving you a life," basically would be how they would have looked at it. So that is a story, and that's not a bad thing. This is the Abrahamic covenant, really, in picture form. Abraham could not guarantee the individual faith of his children. He could, in his faithfulness to Yahweh, receive the promise of a peaceful homeland for his ancestry, which would be an example of what it would be to be down here at the bottom or farther down the story of Abraham. Well, what about the other story, really the most important story of all? How was that being told? Well, that question doesn't really come up as a contextual discussion until the book of Ezekiel. Let me read from chapter 14, Ezekiel 14, beginning in verse 12, where the question really was asked for the first time: how do I compare my individual faithfulness to God, to Yahweh, with my family's faithfulness? Here it is, Ezekiel 14:12. The word of the Lord came again to me, saying, "Son of man, when a land sins against me by persistent unfaithfulness, I will stretch out my hand against it. I will cut off its supply of bread, send famine on it, and cut off man and beast from it," that is, the exile. If my family is unfaithful as a whole, I will punish them as a family. But though 3 men, and then he mentions Noah, Daniel, and Job. Well, they're not living in the days of Ezekiel. It just shows that he must be talking hypothetically about how we can think in terms of individuals versus the land or the family. So he says, though the men Noah, Daniel, and Job are in it, they would deliver only themselves by their righteousness, their tzedekah. And here we are right back to that idea of individuals who are right with Yahweh because of their personal righteousness. Even though these 3 men were in the land, as I live, says the Lord God, they would deliver neither their own sons or daughters, they would only deliver themselves, and the land would be desolate. One of the most complicated and really careful stories that the Bible will be telling is the difference between a story that's being told through one's ancestry and a story that each individual tells through their personal faithfulness to Yahweh.